to Pica Poco Kitchen. Today we're making Rosca de Reyes, or wise men cake. Vámonos! In Mexico and in other parts of the world, Epiphany is celebrated on January 6th. Epiphany is a celebration, religious celebration regarding the birth of Jesus and when the kings or the wise men came to visit bringing gifts and stuff. That's why this dessert, that's where the name comes from, the king's cake or Rosca de Reyes, or as I said, wise men cake. And it symbolizes that moment. That's why you're in search of a little Jesus figurine that it's hidden inside this cake, which if you find it, it will bring you joy, happiness, blessings, and of course it will mean that on February the 2nd, which is Candlemas, which I've just learned that's how you say it in English, which is another festivity, it's your turn to bring the tamales. I'm telling you, we're full of excuses to just gather and eat food. However, for most of us that are not so religious, Rosca de Reyes means just enjoying a delicious cake. And it's decorated with many different treats and fruits, and every kid is fighting to get the right piece that you want. This cake is a long-standing tradition. It is very fun. I really remember gathering with your family after Christmas, the last day. You know this is over and more celebrations are gonna come, but you know that all the big food gathering, the posadas are over, so it's a nice way to close this whole season. And it is just another cake. I'm gonna guide you through it. It's a lot of handling of those, but I will give you all the tips and tricks that I use to make yours successful. So, we know more further. So, let's get to it. First, I'm gonna start by making the sponge preferment. And to do so, I'm gonna take from the total amount of my ingredients. The total amount of the ingredients I'll let you know later on in the video. So I'm taking 3 tablespoons from my flour, 1 tablespoon from my sugar, and some of the milk. My milk is warm. In total, I use 5 tablespoons of this milk. To this, I'm going to add 5 grams of dry yeast. This is the yeast that I'm going to use for my entire recipe. My recipe is cut in half because I'm making a smaller rosca. If you're interested in making the complete or full size, I'm going to leave all the information in the description, so make sure to click down and check it out. Now I'm going to cover my sponge and let it sit in a warm spot between 15 to 30 minutes. And now for the total amount. For my flour, I'm going to be using 250 grams of it, and I'm going to make a little well in the middle. To that, I'm going to add 3 grams of salt, 50 grams of sugar, and now the wet ingredients. And this is my sponge, all nice and bubbly. I left mine for 30 minutes because my environment was pretty cold. To that, I'm gonna add 2 beaten eggs, and here you can add 15 milliliters of citrus juice. In my case, I'm using tangerine, or as I like to call it, satsuma. I've been watching too much Taskmaster. And also the zest. Yeah, I know, mine was lame. That's all I could have gathered. But you could use lime, orange, or anything else. I also like to add 1 splash of vanilla, and I'm gonna stop here because now I'm gonna proceed to incorporate the flour into my liquid ingredients until it's almost all of it hydrated. It's gonna still be a little bit dry, and that's when my milk is gonna come forward. But first, you need to make sure that all of these wet ingredients get incorporated in the dough. Once I see that most of my flour has been incorporated, I'm gonna start adding the milk. I'm going a little bit of a time, and you're gonna use definitely less than 60 milliliters. I'm using the one that it's left from my sponge, so you can see how little I'm really adding. And remember, this milk is warm, so add just a little bit at a time until you have no more flour left in your bowl. When you don't see any more dry flour, you can start working your dough. It's gonna be sticky, so I recommend you flouring your table and doughing your dough right there. Or this will happen to you. Your mat is gonna get stuck into your dough and it's gonna be quite problematic. So just flour your table and you'll be alright. Dough it until it's nice and soft and transfer it back to your bowl. Now we're gonna add 75 grams of room temperature butter. Remember, it's gonna get worse before it gets better. Every time we incorporate fat into our yeasty dough, it becomes very weird and wet and floppy. But just be patient, incorporate a little bit at a time, work it, and it's always better to do it in a bowl because you will have more control and you will have less mess to clean. So let's do that. When all your butter has been incorporated, now we're going to flour our surface and transfer the dough back to the table so we can actually work it. In the beginning, your dough is going to be very sticky. So be patient and work it as much as you can. In this particular day, my dough was very getting into my nerves. So I had to do what I always tell people to do. If you get tired, frustrated, or just it's just not working for you, don't worry. Just roll your dough, cover it with a bowl, and let it sit for 15 minutes and then come back with clean hands and clean mind and continue working it. This really helps the dough relax. So when it's relaxed, it's going to be easier every time to work it. And you can do that a couple of times or even 3 times if you feel like you need to. And trust me, it works. I actually ended up working my dough in 2 parts, just like Wicked. And in total, I have to say that I did kneaded my dough for around 45 minutes without counting my 15-minute intermissions. And when you're happy with your dough, we're gonna take a bowl and add a little bit of neutral oil in it, just so our dough doesn't create a crust. We're gonna cover it as well, put some plastic, some kitchen towel, and let it double its size. While that happens, we're gonna make the paste. And for that, we're gonna need 50 grams of powdered sugar. To that, we're gonna add 50 grams of butter and 50 grams of flour. And if you remember my recipe for conchas, this is the exact same paste that I used to cover those. And to add more flavor and also to finish binding all my paste together, I like to add 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Finish combining with your fingers until your paste achieves a smooth and firm consistency. Once you have it done, I like to divide mine in half and I'll be flavoring that half with. So I'll be adding half a tablespoon of cocoa powder. You can add 1 tablespoon if you feel like it. Combine until the color is uniform. Wrap them in plastic and let them sit in the fridge while we get everything else ready. Now that my dough has risen, I'm gonna punch the air out by laying it flat on my table. I'm also gonna try to make a rectangle with it. And this is just one of the ways there are to make the rosca. I like to do it this way because in case I wanted to add some filling, I could do it right here in the top and then just roll it down. Some people also like to add their figurines before baking the rosca. I just don't feel comfortable doing that. And these are my little figurines that I got from Amazon a long time ago and then completely forgot about them until I recently cleaned one of my drawers in the kitchen and found them. So finally they're gonna be put to use. Now roll down all your dough, making a little log, and we're gonna transfer that to our baking sheet. Now that I have it on my baking sheet, as you can see, I open one of the ends of my little log, and I'm gonna use that to wrap the dough around each other and create a circle. I like to try and pinch the seams or push them to the bottom of the tray. If you can really do it and it's looking funky like mine, don't worry, because we're gonna give it a second rinse in the pan and then it's gonna rise once more in the oven. So don't worry about how it looks just yet. And here she is after 30 minutes. Now it's ready to be decorated. I have divided both my vanilla and chocolate pastes in 3 portions, and now using my knife I'm going to shape them in very nice strips. This is total vanity. You don't have to be that peculiar with your shapes, but I'm just trying to make it look nice. And feel free to add as many or as little as you want. In all honesty, this is my favorite part of the whole rosca. This is the piece that I will always go for. Once I finish alternating the chocolate and vanilla paste pieces, I'm going to give the rest of my rosca a little bit of an egg wash. This will not just only give it a nice shine, but also will help for the fruits and nuts that I'm about to add stick to the dough. I had some dried apricots laying around, so I decided to use them, but feel free to add any other candied fruit that you have. And I'm also gonna add some chopped pecans that I'm gonna sprinkle with a little bit of brown sugar. And here you have it. I invite you to make the full-size version of it and invite your friends over. This is a very fun tradition. You don't have to use babies, you can use cats, dogs, Star Wars figurines, infinity stones, which I think it's a great idea and I'm gonna be doing that next year. Or don't put anything in it, but if you do, let people know. You don't want any accidents. And cover it with whatever flavors you prefer. It can be candied fruit, it can be ganache, it can be just powdered sugar. You can also fill it or serve it with something on the side like whipped cream, jam. It is for you to enjoy. I won't be cutting and trying it just yet because for me today is the last day of the year and I'm gonna be enjoying this at my mother-in-law's house with my husband, and I don't want to ruin the surprise of getting any figurine out just yet. But I really hope you try it, and if you do, let me know what you think. Please share this recipe and this rosca with your friends. Just like this video, like, subscribe, and be notified. And for more, follow me on the socials. Adios, amigues!